Live from the Pines, your favorite East Texas sports podcast, coming at you live tonight. Tonight we welcome Lufkin head basketball coach, Coach JT McManus. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to see you guys.
Well, Coach Mack, we know you have a busy schedule right now, especially with the playoff season getting ready to kick off. So we thank you for taking time and coming on Live from the Pines tonight.
Glad to be here. Not as busy as you are, Jalen.
Hey, that's not hard to do these days. But, hey, the big thing is, Coach Mack, you run the table as a district. We're a week away from the playoffs. We're Tuesday, okay? So we're a week away from the playoffs, and, you're on a 30-game win streak. You and your guys are. So what's going on in Lufkin basketball right now?
Well, I don't like to talk about the streak. Probably a little of those old baseball deals that y'all have, some of y'all.
Knock on some wood.
No doubt, 100%. This is not something, to be honest, that you ever dreamed of or thought happened. And just, basketball, you play so many games, somewhere along the line is just these kids just find a way. I mean, I don't really know exactly how to explain it. They just are resilient, awfully talented, good group of kids that believe in each other. And, even the games like against Mount Pleasant and Hallsville, where we maybe didn't play our best offensively, we've done a good job and played good enough defense to find a way to win it. And, it's one thing I say about this team is we feel like we can beat you any kind of way. If you want to slow it down, we can play that style of game. If you want to get out and go, we can play that kind of game. And we've kind of proven that, over the years by winning in several different ways. And you don't want to jinx it because, like I told them, I said, this is great. All this is great. But you're remembered by how you perform in the playoffs, and I put up there, we have 5 different groups, teams, I think since 2013 that have advanced to the third round or farther. None of them has won as much as you guys have in the regular season, but now it's 0-0, the whole sudden death deal. You have a bad night and, you're putting everything up. So just trying to keep going, keep driving the bus and not mess this thing up, so to speak.
Well, before we dive into that incredible season and this, playoff run we're looking forward to, let's talk a little bit about Coach McManus. I know you've been in Lufkin, was it 23 years?
This is my 23rd year.
So where did it all start at? Where did Coach McManus start his career at?
Well, my dad was a high school basketball coach, and I played high school basketball, and always was a basketball first guy. I was blessed with some God-given ability in track. Ended up getting recruited in track to run at TCU. Just didn't have the opportunities in basketball that I had in track, and so went that way, but always knowing that I wanted to circle back to basketball. And so I started my career at a little school just 11 miles north of Abilene, and it was called Hawley, Texas. And they're actually pretty good in football right now. When I was there, you could figure out why they gave a job to a 23-year-old right out of college, because we were awful in everything. I think we lost 35 straight football games. I think over that 3-year period, we won 2 baseball games, and I think we won like 15 basketball games during that period. But I learned a lot. It doesn't matter what you know, it's what you can get kids to do. A lot of the principles that we developed, we started back then, and we couldn't have scored 25 points against air with that group. So we had to learn how to defend. And a lot of the things we do defensively, we started during that time. I ended up, all of my dad's friends and all of my coaching buddies are like, man, get out of there. Why are you staying there? I was young. I wasn't married. I was hard-headed. I know Cole finds that hard to believe, but hard-headed in the fact that I was going to try to turn that thing around. We ended up we went 16-15, my 4th year there, and first winning season in a team sport in, a long, long time. And we went 23-9 and 21-11 my last 2 years. And I was trying to get – my family all lived east of I-35. So I wanted to get back this direction towards my family. They tried to name me the AD, and I was like, thank you, but no thank you. I've done my time to get on down the road. So I went to Rogers, Texas, which was about 20 miles from where my grandparents, they were getting older. They lived in Caldwell, and Rogers was about 20 miles up the road. So I took a job with a family friend, a guy there that I'd grown up with. His younger brother had just gotten the AD head football coaching job at Rogers. So I went there for a year, and then kind of got my big break, in coaching. I got hired at Marshall, Texas, and Marshall had won. They were 4-27 the year before I took over, and had won 3 district games the 3 previous years, and just was lucky. Walked into a situation that they were incredibly talented. Coach Outlaw took notice and tried to hire me after a year here in Lufkin, and I just couldn't leave. The guy who had taken a chance on me, and had Coach Bill Harper, stayed at Marshall, I would have stayed there, forever with him. But he retired 3 years into it, and Coach Carter, who had been hired previously at Lufkin, took a job back in the Houston area and opened this up. And I called Coach Outlaw back and asked if he was still interested, and he was, and came here. And like you said, been here 23 years since that time. So,
yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you, since you've started, in your opinion, how do you think the game has changed on how it's played or how you coach the kids from now to when you kind of started?
That's a good question. The game, I think that's a 2-part question. The game there's a lot more opportunities for kids to play through the summer times and year round. And, you can get into whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a thing. And, there's just a lot more opportunities for that. UIL has expanded what they allow us to do in the summertime about 3 years ago. So we actually get to travel, to a tournament in the summertime, and I get to coach them, which is a little different than, the way you did it back when you guys played. Yeah. We've kind of gone to a 5-out situation, which a lot of basketball has. And then as far as, all the older players talk about how soft I am now and don't, get all this, that, and the other. And, I guess that I have. I guess that's every person's going to have their opinion there on however they want to take that. And but I mean, it's just, I don't, people talk about kids have changed. I don't know if kids necessarily have changed as much as, the way you have to approach kids has probably changed a little bit. So, we get a little more time with them. So it's maybe not as important to maximize every single second of every single day. And, I would definitely say some of those groups, aren't as tough when some of the people come through and see how lucky and blessed we are with the facilities we have. They forget that my first 16 years, Cole, that we were over there in an unair conditioned gym, and it was hotter than you know what. And it was, I never griped about that. I never complained about that. My only complaint was, and you remember some of these days, that it would just get so hot, the floor would sweat, and we couldn't keep it dry, and people were slipping. I didn't want to get somebody hurt. But, finally those last 3 years, we kind of got it air conditioned, and so it upgraded. And then we kind of moved over here, and we're as blessed as anybody is in the state of Texas. And I don't know that I had the understanding of just how big it was. I listened to y'all the other night with Coach Cobb talk about how big it is to have a facility on campus, and just, you kind of feel connected. Morris Frank was great. Panther Gym was great, but you were kind of separated from everybody else when you were involved in those situations. And, it's easy for kids to get out of staying up here till 5 o'clock shooting basketball now and walk right across the parking lot and go support the baseball kids in the spring, or, whatever it is. So it kind of makes us more connected. I don't know if I did a good job of answering your question, Cole, but I tried to there.
No, that was a good one. Yeah, I remember that gym and that small weight room.
Yeah, that thing was hotter than the gym was.
Oh my, there was no wind coming in that thing.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you about how much more convenient it is to have a gymnasium on campus like that, not having kids having to travel after fourth period and dealing with. I remember some days the bus would mess up or some people's trucks wouldn't start and just all type of stuff. So I bet that's a big advantage.
We did the math, and if you talk about the 15 minutes a day that it takes to transport the kids over there, that's an hour and 15 minutes a week, and it actually boils down to 6 weeks worth of work that we get more with them. So and that's an unintended consequence. We just, we started, we just get more time with them now, so to speak, and that. It was always a worry. Everybody would show up. Kids are driving over there. Excuse me. I mean, I can go back to 7 minutes after the bell, we're on the floor, because in that situation, I didn't want you to get held up by the parking lot guy and feel like, oh, coach is going to run me. So you're driving like a maniac and you have an accident. I wanted you there to start practice on time, but it wasn't worth some of those risks.
Yep. I remember 225. I used to pile up everybody I could in the truck, and we'd be hauling over to Panther Gym.
I was talking about that today, and 225 is exactly what it was. And it wasn't cool to ride that bus. Everybody found a way to get in the car, and I'm not so sure how safe it was. I think we had 2 accidents over my time. Luckily, none of them were very serious, but that was a real concern, and that was a real worry, and definitely one that we don't have to worry about now.
Yep.
Well, I want to talk about, I know this is Jalen's show, but I want to talk about how, Cole, your group was 2-3 against Quentin Grimes, and Nick Wilson dropped 22 on him one night there in Panther Gym and sent him back.
I remember we beat him at home, though.
Yeah. We beat them twice, and they beat us once here, and they throttled us a couple times down there in College Park. We try not to remember some of those things.
Yeah, I remember that game. I mean, he had a couple of other people on that team, but he was he was the main factor in that one game in College Park. It seemed like the rim was just huge for him. He was hitting everything. And I remember Coach Mack, usually he's talking a lot over the sidelines. And at one point you were just like, y'all
not much we can do that night. Let the clock run.
But no, he was a great player. And it's pretty cool to see how successful he's been at Kansas and then going to U of H, and then I think he's on the Knicks and then traded to the Mavs, if I'm correct.
Yeah, he just got traded last week.
To who?
Where is it, Jalen? You're supposed to keep up with all that.
You talking about Quentin Grimes? You talking Quentin? Was it the Timberwolves?
I think so. Or maybe NBA to me stands not before April. I don't watch much NBA till March Madness is over. So it kind of heats up at that time. So I don't keep up with a lot. I know a lot of people.
He's on the Sixers now.
Yeah, that's who it was. The Sixers. There you go.
That's not a bad.
That's close to Minnesota, Jalen. We're good.
Yep. And then I was going to ask you. You kind of pointed on it. What's like you're saying, the big. Don't want to mention it, but how many wins you'll have this year, and you're going to have those games where you're not necessarily hitting the shots at a high clip. It's just basketball. What has been like the main thing that attributed to just having that same energy every night, even though to just grind those wins out sometimes?
Well, it's the same. It's the same way we did with you. Everything started and stopped with our defense. We were going to try to defend and make it difficult for you guys, for the other team to score, and try to figure out a way to have enough guys that step up and score points, and we're blessed with some guys who can do that now. And you mix in the same, feisty, nasty, get after your defense, and that's led to the success that we've had.
Yep. Y'all definitely got some talented guys.
There's no doubt.
Well, as far as, your career being in Lufkin, doing 23 years at Lufkin High School and having the chance, raise your daughter and, now get to coach your son, a lot of coaches don't get to do those things. And, I see it as a blessing,
Yeah, I mean, I did an interview the other day, and it was after the Mount Pleasant game, and they were talking about the crowd, and I talked about how awesome it was, and I said that's why you want to be in Lufkin. And we've had opportunities and looked at other places, and there's just as a coach, you can kind of choose where you want to live, and there's just been no reason to look out there otherwise, and been blessed. This community has been great to my family. And it's part of who we are at this point, been blessed with great administration, And like you said, our kids, it's home for our kids now. And when we talked about earlier, you never talk about or never thought that we would have a, win streak or anything like that, just because it's not something that's really that normal in basketball. And I never thought I'd be somewhere 23 years coaching basketball, but it just speaks to how wonderful this place is. And, I love a one-horse town, so to speak, where, and you guys know this from following it longer than I have. If Lufkin gets rolling, it doesn't matter if it's in Tiddlywinks. There's going to be people there to support it, and it's one thing. There's some advantages that people in the city have, but growing up with kids from Lufkin and the diversity of Lufkin, and to see those people all pull together is something that is immeasurable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of these football and a couple of basketball games in Houston area. My first couple, I'm just like, man, it's Friday night, and the stands are a quarter filled, and I'm like, I've never seen this, man. I'm used to A. Martin or Panther Gym being pretty packed out, and that being kind of the event of the community,
Well, we get people that are in Lufkin that come to the high school event because that's what people in Lufkin do. There's people in those places, if they're not related to somebody or they don't have a boss's child playing, they don't go. I mean, it's just because some of those schools aren't around long enough. They're not old enough to have alumni as old as me, or whatever the situation may be.
Yep. It's a different ball game.
As far as this season, looking back at all the great seasons you've had as a coach, what stands out the most about this class?
Well, there's still a lot of that to be determined. Up to this point, it's been a lot of fun, and there's certain things that no matter what happens, you can't take away from this group and what they've accomplished. It's a little bit different because a lot of these kids are around the age of my son. So, whether it was T-ball or whatever we started at 5 years old, there's a lot of these kids that I know a little bit differently just because I've been around them, through his experiences in Lufkin and playing the baseball and playing the basketball and playing soccer and all those different things that you do. And, carrying some of these kids when we were younger to different places and playing basketball. And so, from that standpoint, it's a little bit different, but just a great group of young men that represent the community well and just, fun to be around. They show up, they work hard. Of course, all that's easier when you win. You guys know that from your athletic experience, and winning's fun. And, so we've had some moments where we've had to deal with some adversity and things don't go our way, and they've responded really well in that. But like I said earlier, Jalen, you're remembered by how you do, in the playoffs. And I want those guys. And like I said, it won't take away from what they've done up to this point. It's been a tremendous season. But to make it, really, really, really special, you hope that they have the success that they deserve, and there's no guarantees. You can have a bad night and it can all end, and we're doing everything in our power to keep that from happening and trying to make sure that we're prepared as we can be for whatever situation we're going to see. And, some of that's a guessing game. Some of that, because we have had so much success in different areas that we've seen a lot of different stuff this year. So, it just is what it is. And, you hope that they get what they deserve, but we all know life isn't fair all the time, and so my job is to try to make sure that we're as prepared as we could possibly be. And one thing about basketball that is different from football and baseball, you don't have a lot of time to enjoy it. If we win Tuesday, we're playing Friday. So by Wednesday, we got to be locked back in, where baseball is weekly. You may play a 2 or 3 game series, but it's weekly, and football is once a week. And so, there's just not a lot of time to enjoy it. And that's what, we've tried to talk about and prepare. Once this thing gets going, like literally back in the old days when we had the regional tournament, we would play 5 rounds of basketball in 10 days, where that would take football and basketball 5 weeks. And it's just crazy when you say that out loud, when you go Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and now you're at the state tournament in basketball. And that's, it's a little different now because of the divisions, and you'll go Tuesday, Friday. But that's regionals that you're over, in 2 weeks, you've played the entire region deal. And so you want them to enjoy it, but also be able to move on and handle success. And you talked about it. I think this group has done a good job of kind of being able to compartmentalize some of that.
Yep.
As far as last season and then moving into this season, you get a lot of the same kids back. You get Tripp to move up, and you had another kid move up also.
Tebow, CJ,
yeah. So you get a lot of these guys that have a lot of playoff experience under their belt from having the run they had last year. Transferring into this year, and Austin's a year older. Marcellus is a senior now, and then, like you said, you added some freshmen now that are sophomores to this group. How big does that play a role going into the playoffs?
A lot of these guys have been through it. And let's rewind to 2 years ago. A very humbling experience. Our district wasn't very strong. We got beat in the second round, and I'm like, we've got to play a tougher schedule. And Coach McManus might have made a mistake there. We might have, anybody, anywhere, anytime we would play. And we played 3 top 50 teams in America, and we weren't ready for that jump. And like I like to try to explain to people, the schedule was there. There wasn't anything I could do once I made it. It's not like, hold up. We want to change this. We couldn't do it. On top of those 3 top 50 teams, we also said, yeah, we'll go play Shadow Creek. Well, Shadow Creek is a top 6A team in the state right now. We drove all the way to the other side of Houston and played them, and we got our teeth kicked in. And so rewind to the spring before that group, Austin's coming back. Dalen and Marcellus are coming back from teams that are 34-4. Our JV went 29-1, and our freshmen went 29-1. Well, those guys were used to success. So that spring, they didn't quite listen to the old man all that much because they were used to winning. They were used to being successful, and that's a real thing.
Yep.
And so we get into last year early on, and like I said, we got our teeth kicked in. And you talked about that whole developmental deal. From the time we got back from spring break, this was a different group. You could tell from that spring to this spring, they knew a lot more what it took. Maybe that we couldn't get to that level. When you're talking about top 50 in the nation, you're talking about elite level. But whatever level we could get to, they wanted to maximize whatever that was. And so, we continued. About 3 years ago, we started putting them in the heat, in the environments. And when these kids would walk into these different events, I remember walking into the GASA when these kids were sophomores that are seniors, and we were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you guys know this, and a lot of people say, oh, Lufkin has a lot of talent, and we do. But if you go to some of these major basketball events, there is some ginormous people out there, and you walk in there and you're looking around and you're just like overwhelmed. And so over the 3 years, we've kind of put these kids in that experience, and you may beat us, but we're not going to be intimidated in that just by walking into that environment. We've seen, the best of the best, and we've lost some of those games, but we've had some success in some of those games. And so just you talk about all that growing up, all that went on in that, Jalen, and I think that's a huge part of it. I knew that I was scared to death. We went to a GASO event, and we played Murillo, who was in the state tournament last year as the Region 1 representative, and we won by 6 points. And we turn around, and we're going to play DeSoto in the next game. And DeSoto, you know what they're working with. And
oh, yeah.
they started kind of yapping and talking. And, at one point we were up 30 on them. And I was like, oh, my goodness. This is good, but we're not trying to peak in September, guys. Like, oh, my goodness. And, but we knew we had a shot at that point. If you can play with those guys at that level, and then we went to another Gasso in the Houston area, and we beat Cy Ranch, who was the 6A representative in the regional tournament last year. And then we played Atascocita, and it was a 2 or 3 point game, which Atascocita in 6A Region 3 basketball is always one of the top guys. And they ended up pulling away from us at the end and beating us by about 10. But our kids thought that they could play with them and believed they could play with them. And so just putting them in those environments and letting them believe, and then having kids like Austin who have played on that stage and brings a sense of calm to him when he walks in the gym. And so just having somebody like that they trust and I don't want to say follow because everybody kind of plays an equal role, but hey, if he's good, we're good, so to speak. And so it's just been good to watch that evolution take place and kind of watch our kids' confidence grow and feel like they belong on that stage and feel like they can play with anybody.
That's, a lot of people don't realize this in Lufkin. We have a lot of kids that play multiple sports. So you're getting a lot of kids from football, rolling into basketball season. They didn't get the opportunity a lot of these kids in the city get because when you go to the city, you have true basketball players. You have true football players, true baseball players. You got kids, you got 5 to 6 kids a year that are going to be, contributing a lot on that basketball team that are in basketball year round. All they're doing is playing basketball. From summer all the way to the end of the school year, they're rolling back over to another basketball season. So you're only getting these kids a week before season starts.
Well, the 9-team district makes it difficult, and it definitely is a situation that that yes, we got those kids and so but the summertime is almost kind of turned into a spring football, so to speak, mentality for us, and so. As long as they can come over here and get some work in, we can kind of prep them for what the upcoming season is and get some time there and know what we're working with and know they're committed and want to try to do both. And, you can work with that. And so that's a challenge that we have. But we started basketball this year district-wise 6 weeks earlier than we did last year being in a 6-team district. We started like the middle of January, and our first district game was December 3rd, the Tuesday after the Thanksgiving holidays. And it's just been a marathon, and it's a grind. And good luck, Coach Cobb and everybody else. 1,476 miles round trip is what we traveled to district games this year. And it's just Tuesday night to Texarkana is a pretty good trip, and we don't have a problem going to Tyler and those places in Houston. But Texarkana and Mount Pleasant, those are long trips. And so just trying to manage and balance that and has been a challenge. And it was tough starting that early. And we were very happy with the success that football has, but there's, quite a bit of crossover now that makes it pretty difficult to try to do both. Not impossible. And we're looking to try to learn from this year and correct and fix some of those things to help these kids have the opportunity to be successful in both.
So I know you mentioned the new summer rules. Are y'all able to have like official practices now?
Yes, we can work them out during the week. You get basically an hour a day, an hour and a half that combines the weight room and skill work. And so, yes, we actually work them out. It's like I said, that happened about 3 years ago. And that has kind of equalized things for us. Jalen, you talked about the city, and everybody in the city has a trainer now and they pay for it. And we can kind of provide that to our kids, free of charge if they want to come up here and get the work in and go to work. And, it's almost become a necessity because just like spring football, we make a lot of our decisions in the summer during that time because we are playing such high level competition during that time. We really get to evaluate kids, and it's really kind of changed, like I said, over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the AAU circuit? I know it's good recognition for the kids and getting on recruiting services and everything. But what's your kind of opinion of the growth of the AAU circuit?
Well, I mean, if you have high-level kids, you have to work with those guys because they can get them. I'll give you a perfect example. It's frustrating right now because your grassroots, I call them grassroots because AAU is like saying Coke. It's a brand. There's, the EYBL with Nike. All the shoe companies have their own deal, and it's not AAU, but that's what they call it. So if I say grassroots, I'm just substituting that. That's what I mean by it. But they're having their tryouts right now for their teams, and it's frustrating from a high school coach because what are we right in the middle of?
Playoff prep.
Getting ready for playoffs. And the last thing you want is a kid trying out, getting hurt. But as high school coaches, we can't get upset with those guys if we don't have an open line of communication and roll around to April, and it's the live period where they're going to be in front of everybody in America, from the Dukes to the Kansases to the, Division III schools that are out recruiting them. So those 2 weekends used to be in April. There's 1 weekend in May now. The kids who we have that are playing on those circuits, we've got to make sure they're fresh and ready to go. It does me no good to beat the crap out of them in off season during those weeks. They need to be as fresh as they can, because you're talking about a kid like Austin, and that's just one kid in the program, but where he's ranked and some of this will affect the NIL money. So it's really changed, the way that you have to approach and the opportunities that he has. We have other kids that get to go play, and it may be an opportunity for, free education, and they have to be at their peak during those times because it's hard. This is not like football where coaches come through here. They do right now because Austin's in school. But, that all those relationships started through his grassroots scene and the things that he does there. So, it's always evolving. I think it's a necessary that you need to have relationships with those guys, that you do what's in the best interest of the kids, because that's the commodity for them as grassroots people and the commodity that's necessary for us as high school coaches. If we don't have any kids, none of it works, so we've got to take care of those kids in those situations.
With the NIL world kind of coming to recently years, have you seen any changes or heard of anything in like recruiting wise? It's getting a little crazy. I mean, I know
it's hard for high school kids to get a foot in the door, because
portal.
They're going to recycle kids from other colleges that are older, that are more mature. It's a big difference when an 18-year-old steps up to the free throw line and tries to block out a 23 or 24-year-old. And they can be a better basketball player, but that's a grown man. There's a lot of people at 18 that think they're grown, but go try to block one of those dudes out on the free throw line. You figure out that grown man strength, and just, there's different levels of that. And so, they've got more film against quality competition when they can recruit college kids. And it's just, once you think you got it figured out, it changes from year to year, from almost month to month. So you're always hunting, and you tell kids, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, I've got enough of my own problems, but it's hard for me to believe that Kevondrick Taylor was not recruited at a higher level in football than what he was. I mean, I've watched Lufkin football for a long time, and you could talk about the best return men and the best receivers we've had, and whatever juice they have, he has it. And, just kind of talking to him, get your foot in the door, get started, and everybody's transferring up. I don't want him to be looking for a way up. I hope he's loyal to Prairie View and the opportunity they gave him, but that's the ways of the world now. You just need a chance and an opportunity. And, you talk about how it's changed. I struggle with, there is no loyalty. Cole, I know you're a big Aggie, and, whether it's baseball, Buzz has done a tremendous job basketball wise and keeping people there. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's
different with he's a good culture guy. He's a good coach and a really good leader.
That too. You're right, Jalen. But they all are. The money's out there.
Let me tell you, one thing I've realized with a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, loyalty, no matter how much you do for them, no matter, all the great things that, we say, if you're 17, 18, 19 years old, with some of the money these guys are getting thrown at, like, and like I'm not trying to say anything bad or anything, but you look at a lot of these kids playing in college sports nowadays, and you hear their story and what they come from and everything. And this is generational wealth.
Yep.
Like I don't care how good you might be, there's always a chance for injury.
Some of them can still stay at college. I mean, you look at like Hunter Dickinson at Kansas, a basketball player, and how much he's making to play basketball at Kansas. And really kind of the big man is kind of, unless you're super skilled away from the bucket, it's tough in the NBA. So why not go ahead and make that money? I mean,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's just hard from a loyalty standpoint. I just worry that your hardcore Aggies or your hardcore Longhorns, like both of you guys are, there's just no identity. I mean, my dad graduated from Texas. I grew up watching Texas basketball, and I don't know how many months we are in the basketball season, and I barely know any of the guys that are on Texas's team. And I mean, you can substitute that. I went to TCU, and I think they have one young man back from last year's team. And it's just hard to develop, a following like that.
A relationship.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it is. And I don't know if you know that you follow University of Texas, pretty closely, right, Jalen?
Oh, yeah.
And you follow Lufkin Panthers, right? This is
Always.
a good one. I'm fixing to put him on the spot. So do you know the Julian Larry? Do you know his story? That's the point guard. That's the backup point guard at University of Texas.
All right. Before you get started, anybody that tell you this, I give two craps about basketball.
Okay.
But I like
That's
Lufkin
why
basketball.
I'm glad you have me on the show.
No, Lufkin basketball.
I'm sure I put you in the headlock to get it to happen.
No, like
I'm
listen
kidding,
to this. Lufkin basketball, anything Lufkin, I'm going to support. And me and Tyler Abney, we take off work to go watch playoff basketball games.
Yes, sir. And we appreciate it.
When it comes to anything else like basketball, I've been watching some Texas basketball. There ain't nothing else on TV to watch.
Right. Well, what I was going to tell you, I was just joking with you. What I was going to tell you is he was the quarterback for that Lone Star football team. He was a sophomore quarterback that threw to Marvin Mims, and ended up, that might have been his last year of playing football. He ended up transferring to high school. He went to Indiana State for 3 years. I just didn't know if you knew the connection. That's all I was saying.
No,
I wasn't trying to call you out like that. I'm sorry.
Cole, you heard Cole said earlier when you were asking about the kid from College Park. I don't even know his name. Quentin Grimes. Yeah, like you asked him where he was playing at. Like I'm the last person that's going to know anything about a basketball player.
Right.
But
that's why I appreciate you having some of our kids on previously and kind of breaking the trend and
if it's Lufkin,
getting out of your comfort zone a little bit.
If it's Lufkin, I want to talk about it.
I hear you, and I appreciate it. I like what you're doing, and it's been fun to follow you and watch the growth of this.
Well, we appreciate you, but before we let you go, there's a few things we still got to talk about. We talk about this basketball season, we talk about the kids, but everybody knows Austin Brown. Austin Brown, he's on the circuit, he's highly recruited, highly ranked. We're thankful for he's been loyal to the show and coming on and talking with us. But there's a lot of guys on that court around Austin Brown that are making some names for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you this, and it'll be hard for me to talk, too much. There's some kids that are great representatives of what Lufkin's all about. Dalen Newman is unbelievable. What he does on the ball defender is he just wrecks what the offense is trying to do on the other end. And a lot of people count points, and a lot of people don't understand the importance of what he does. But he's one of our team captains for a reason, and he has just showed up every day with. I don't know that Dalen's ever had a bad day. He's had days where he didn't play basketball that well, but he hadn't had a bad day. His attitude affects a lot of things. And we'll have a lot of talent coming back, but it'll be hard to replace some of these seniors and the energy they bring and the attitude that they bring and what they mean to Lufkin basketball. The second one is BJ Thomas from a senior standpoint, another captain, that really grew up, really invested this summer, as our second leading scorer. through this season, done a tremendous job of just, his sophomore year, he played the 5. That you may not know what that is, Jalen, but Cole, that's
the big man.
Yeah, played with his back to the basket, and now he shoots it as well as anybody we have, and he just spent hours and hours of getting better at that. Marcellus is a very, very talented kid that people have known about a long time, kind of slipped through the junior high system. Nobody really knew who he was. I saw him early, and as athletic and talented a kid as there is. And then, of course, Javarius White is a kid who's had oodles of potential and has kind of finally, and I don't say that in a bad way, kind of believes in what we're doing, and the other night, he was our second leading scorer with 14 points. And so, those guys have been the backbone of what we've done. And then, Bryson Skinner's family moving back this summer, was huge for what he brings. And, you talk about his dad and one of the all-time best Lufkin High School Panther football players, and the grittiness and the toughness of just being from Lufkin. And what he's done and what he's meant and how he's fit in with these kids. This senior class is special. And those kids that, Dalen and Marcellus, who have played on the varsity since they were freshmen, have won more than 90 games. And that's just crazy to say out loud, and will always be a huge part of what Lufkin basketball is, and have a chance to, really put their stamp on it by having a nice little run here in February and March of this year.
I know Cole announced on it earlier, but another thing I wanted to ask you before, I got 2 questions to ask you. I want to ask you this one first. What's got in the water in Lufkin? You see every kid getting the ball has some jump to them. I don't know about Cole's class, but I only could tell you probably 1 or 2 people in his class. Yeah, like everybody's dunking now, from the guards to the big man. Like, what's going on?
Good genetics, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I think we work on some things. We've done some things. Look at JJ. It just good kids that work hard and that have put a lot of time and effort into it. And then, just like I said, there's always some good genes involved in that. So, but we're blessed with a lot of really talented kids. And like I said, that just saying it's genetics would not be doing them a service of what they've put in. And, we've learned some things over the years, and we have space to work stuff. We're not, like Cole referred to, jammed into that cracker box, tiny weight room over there. So we've got some space to work, and it's pretty impressive watching them in warm-up. There's no doubt. I'll agree with you, Jalen.
All right, the second question is, as far as you as a coach, with the talented group you've had this year, and you've had some great groups in the past, but as far as coaching these guys, and like you said earlier, keeping their head on the the end goal, the prize, like, have you did anything different this year?
I don't think so. I don't. We've got some certain non-negotiables, and Cole can probably relate to this. You're going to play hard and you're going to act right. As long as you do those 2 things, we're going to be okay. And if you don't, we're not going to be okay. And they're still towel pushing, doing the man makers, Cole, and we don't do the 215s or the 210s.
That was my next question.
We don't do those as much, and all the guys come in. Oh, coach, you're soft. We don't.
I even know what those are.
Yeah, you heard the war stories about those.
Yeah, Cole.
Nightmares about those.
Yeah, and that was just kind of a, and to be honest with you, I don't even know why we don't. I just saw Cole, and I remember some of those. It brought back some memories and some stuff, and just always. I can't put my finger on one specific thing. We're going to try to guard you. We're going to try to make it difficult for you to score. And we're going to continue to that's the foundation and fundamentals. And then we're going to try to work to score 1 more point than you do to be able to win the game. And to do that, you have to be tough. And a lot of stuff we talked about, that you've got to instill some toughness. You've got to develop some toughness. And nothing made you tougher than old Panther Jim over there being as hot as it was. And there's days that I really enjoy being in the pack. And there's days every now and then that I'm like, it'd be good to have some of that old no heat over there. I don't know how my old rear end would take it as much. I've probably softened up. That might be why I'm softer in my old age. Some of them say is it's just I'm not miserable from sweating when you walk in. You could sit down and sweat over there. So
I couldn't make it 20 minutes in that gym now. I'm too soft now. But yeah, I was going to ask about those 215s. I remember those 215s. I remember
250.
Yeah. Shit, you'd be like, it's Friday, it's weekend, but damn, Monday's coming. We got that 215. But I mean, that was the off season kind of like you said. No, I mean you got to do it, and it held people accountable.
I'll say this: there's a lot of kids that think they're fooling the grown people in the room, and you had a lot of gentlemen in your group of friends that like to enjoy the weekend, and so we kind of had to make sure that we were addressing and making sure that they understood what was coming Monday to maybe slow some of those activities down. And that was probably a point in some of that. And there was a message on why we were doing it on Mondays and some of that sort of stuff. So, but what I was going to tell you, Jalen, you were talking to Jaworski earlier, and I was listening to it, and, he was talking about when he got cut, and I tell the story of Jaworski all the time. And, Jaworski, you need to lose weight. Why? I'm the all-time leading touchdown scorer at A&M. And some of that stuff doesn't factor in until you have some adversity and some failure. And he got cut. And Jaworski will tell you, he came back, and where did he go to shed that weight? Panther Gym. And then he and Bo Muehlbach would go in there and work, and they would run those bleachers. And you can have all these fancy trainers in the world you want to. Go work out in that place about 45 minutes a day where you're flat getting it, and you're going to lose some weight. Hopefully you don't end up losing more than that, but you're going to lose some weight. It was miserable at times in there. But I was hoping Jaworski would say something about that, but just touching base on that. That was one thing that from his interview that he had with you that he ended up and he'll tell you that. He got back going, he and Bo worked and got back on the right track and lost that weight and got another shot and took advantage of it.
Yeah, he talked a little bit about how little he was, but if you knew him, personally and got to put your eyes on him like you did, he was a whole different character after he came back and lost that weight. He looked like a true running back then.
Yes, and people probably forget this. Jaworski was not very motivated to play basketball because of the success he had in football.
He could play
100%. When he was locked in and he was motivated, he was a problem. And I remember a couple stories, the Damian Jameses and of Nacogdoches and going down and playing Klein Forest when I can't say what Jaworski said to me on air here, but I knew that Jaworski was ready to play, and we just didn't get that all the time, so to speak, and rightfully so. You have the success that he has, and it was tough to be locked in all the time, especially as many people were pulling in different directions of him as they were. So,
yeah, I think I remember Coach Lamb used to say that he played against Jaworski in high school.
He sure did. And I have a picture with Coach Lamb and Austin Thigpen that I've come across, and Coach Lamb was quite a bit smaller in his playing days in high school as well. So we've all picked up a few LBs along the way.
Yep, we all have.
As looking back at this past season at the youth level, your middle school teams, they had a really great season this past year, and I always see it. I always see Havert posted about it, and I see Shane Sabalvado posted a lot about the middle school basketball. That group is getting ready to go play in a big tournament this weekend, correct?
Yeah, we've always wanted to do that. It's been kind of tough to be able to get somebody to organize it because it's right in the middle of a terrible time of year for me to do something like that. We're busy focused on the high school, the high school playoff season, and so Dr. Emmons and Dr. Allen both have kids in that 7th grade. They had a really, really good 7th grade year, and they approached me about it. So I'm excited. That's coming up this weekend. We're going to try to get our older kids down there to support them. And, that'll be a good measuring stick. They'll get into the city of Houston and play against some of the best middle school teams. It's not school affiliated, but it's the school teams, if that makes sense. Kind of like a fall league baseball situation type, like our middle school coaches can't coach them. But they'll go down there and they'll play. And like a lot of things in that situation, you go down there and two things can happen. You can see how good you are and hopefully continue to work, or you can see things you need to work on and get better at, and that'll motivate you to come back and be better player when you roll around into that same environment next year.
Well, Coach Mack, we know you got some high school games getting ready to kick off in Panther. Well, what do y'all call that now? Panther Gymnasium?
The Pack, and we call it tipping off.
Okay, well, the Pack, kick it off, tip it off. Yeah, that's right.
So I know you. Everybody says kick it off. We're in East Texas. I'm messing with you, Joe.
When will they announce y'all's playoff opponent?
There's still a chance. It'll be either Melissa or Walnut Grove, and it'll be next Tuesday. It's in Athens. We don't know first or second game. We're not 100% on the opponent just yet, but we will. After tomorrow night, we will know more details on that, possibly tomorrow evening or Wednesday morning. So if either one of y'all want to text me during those situations, we're going to head to Dallas and watch some games tomorrow night on some different possible playoff opponents and kind of spread out and see if we can cover some stuff. That's a benefit of having to buy that last game and just kind of trying to get a plan. Because like I said, you hate looking forward as a coach, but you have to in basketball because it happens so fast. You can kind of get caught without film, and if you're spending all day trying to get film, you've wasted a day, and you've only got 2 to get ready for the next situation. So a little bit different this time of year and trying to gather information and prepare for what's coming, hopefully for a long playoff run for this group.
Yep, you just let us know. We'll post it on our socials.
Appreciate you guys.
Yes, we'll definitely be in touch. And for the people that can't get on the road and head north and get to watch these games, our guys at Lufkin Jam Digital Media, they'll have it streaming, and you'll have Nasty on the call, so you won't be missing out.
Are they going to be able to do the playoff games? I'm not sure. I don't know all the rules there. That's more for you media types.
Well, at the end of the day, Nasty will be on the call for sure, no matter what, right?
Right. He may not be able to do the video, but I think they can do the
broadcast,
the streaming.
Yeah, I remember the football was a little weird.
Yeah.
So you'll have a chance to watch at home either way. That's across the state, across the country. Tune in and watch some Lufkin basketball. Coach Matt, we thank you for supporting the show. I see you've been watching a few of our shows, and that means a lot to us. And we thank you. We thank you for taking the time to come on our show, and hopefully we get you back on this season. We don't want to just wrap it up early. We want to finish the goal, and I know these kids can do it, and they're bought in, and they spend a lot of time with you and preparing for these situations like the playoffs.
Well, Jalen, I hate to tell you this, and we see each other at different events quite often, but if we stub our toe, it's going to be your fault, and I'm going to hold that against you forever because you got us on here right now. You're changing up our mojo and stuff, and you know how we are. No pressure on you, Jalen.
We've had some of the guys on during the season. They haven't missed a beat, it seems like. So it might be good luck.
It's going to be me. Huh? It's my fault.
It's going to be your fault.
That. It will be no matter what. It doesn't have anything to do with Live in the Pines.
Hey, Live for the Pines will be there in support. I know that for a fact. I'm going to go. My boss is probably watching, so he probably is already going to know. But I'm going to probably walk in his office tomorrow morning and let him know that I'm going to have to cut out a little early Tuesday.
Well, here's what I'll tell you before I let you go. And this is one of the things that makes Lufkin a special place is the fact that you guys are Panthers. You're not former Panthers. You're Panthers. You're Panthers for life, and you're invested in what goes on in this community. And it's one of the things that makes it different. I'm not saying it's the only place, but it makes this place special. And the fact, Jalen, that you are getting older. I'm not going to call you older, but you've got a relationship with these kids, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's football. And, like Cole talking about living in the Houston area, there's not people that have that relationship across the board just because that's who I am. That's where I'm from. And that's important to me. I mean, I've heard you talk about the kids you looked up to, growing up and playing, and Cole had both of his brothers and it's just a super neat place. And so the fact that y'all are carrying on and getting all the old Panthers and paying respect to them and doing that sort of stuff is awfully neat. And I've been here long enough now that I definitely consider myself one. And so anything I can ever do to help you guys out, always will. And just wanted to say thank you to that. And yeah, I kind of creep and follow behind the scenes, and I'm like, what in the heck is Jalen talking about? I remember this, or I remember that. And he's telling the story a little differently than I remember it, but it's all good. It's all fun, and everything is great.
Well, one thing about being from Lufkin, you take pride in it no matter where you go or end up at. It's a great place to be from. And we thank, you guys, the coaches, administrators, and teachers and everything, getting this, getting Lufkin rolling. It's looking good in every aspect of sports on both sides. When, the girls and the boys, and, it starts with you guys. And y'all basketball is doing a pretty good job, Coach Mack.
We're really blessed.
You've had a lot of success recently, and that's, it's great.
We're really blessed. We're really blessed.
Well, those kids, I'm sure they're at home right now watching little films or, knocking some homework out. So I'm sure they probably ready to get out of the show and get done watching. But we thank you again, Coach Mack, and you go enjoy you some basketball. And before we let you guys go to zilkerbelts.com. Use discount code PINES936 for all online orders to receive 25% off. Shout out to guys with Zilker, Austin Brown. We thank y'all for everything you do. And you get a chance next Tuesday, get on the road, go support Lufkin basketball. Their kids are doing some great things. And Coach Mack, we thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.